everyone. Welcome to the Healthy Living Summit. We're at day 2. As you join us, please just say hello using the chat so that I can see you're online. Hi, Richard. Courtney, I see you. And I know you're having a hard time with the audio. So, Richard, let me know, are you hearing us okay? Hi, Donna. Welcome, everyone. Just say hello so I can see that you're on. Hi, Denise. Welcome. Let me see who else I've missed. Great. And so I'm sure others are going to be joining us shortly. We've just crossed over the 7 o'clock mark. And so we'll just wait for maybe a couple more minutes until everybody comes on, and then we'll do our formal introductions. Okay, so we're being heard okay. I know Kim was having a little bit of trouble with the sound, so we will see how that goes. So I hope that those of you who were present yesterday had a great time as part of our talks yesterday. And I did ask you to spread the word and let others know that they can benefit from some of the wonderful conversations that we're going to be having. And today we have David Okamoto. Am I pronouncing it right, David?
It's Okamoto, but it's pretty close.
You put the O and the A in the opposite direction.
You know, it's good enough for me, you know.
And so I'm going to introduce David now, and then he is going to take over. We also have Courtney Quarry, who is on the line, but he's having some trouble with his brand new phone that he just received today. And so he might be able to come on at some point with the video, and if he's not, then he'll catch up with us at some other point. So David Okamoto, he graduated from the University of Toronto with his Bachelor of Science, and he received accreditation in the pharmaceutical industry with an APMR. Now, David, can you explain to us what an APMR is?
Yes, you know what? I discovered the hard way, believe me, that all the pharmaceutical reps, because they go see doctors, you know, and they have to get accredited in the pharmaceutical industry. They have to pass a series of tests in pharmacology, and it's actually a year course. I'm not going to tell you how I passed, because I remember when my director called me up, he says, "Are you all ready for your exam?" And I said, "Well, no." I said, I hadn't planned to do it. He said, "Well, it's a condition of employment in this industry," which I didn't know. And I had 2 weeks to study, and a year course. I thought, well, this is not very smart of me, but I managed to, I did well in it. And I can't tell you why, but I didn't cheat. I studied properly, but but I learned pharmacology. I did study pharmacology and all that, and that's what it's all about. So if any pharmaceutical rep you meet, they have to pass a certain, I think change the name, but it's a certain level of competence in order for them to stay in the industry. So they have advanced courses, basic courses. I just took the basic courses at that point because
Okay.
I moved on to other things.
Wonderful. So I'll go on with the introduction because that was just the first line.
I'm sorry.
So David went on to become a part of the surgical industry and worked in the operating room, specializing in neurological surgery for a period of time. And he has been working internationally as a certified clinical trainer and laser engineer as well. You've got quite the portfolio here, David. And then you added oncology to your portfolio, introducing radiofrequency ablation for inoperable tumors, and also then worked on hepatic or liver lesions. and children with osteomass. So I believe that's bone masses as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you left the industry, and now you have developed a number of awarded patents for medical devices along the way as well.
Right.
And most recently, you joined Opulence Global about 3 years ago. And this is where you started working with some anti-aging projects. And today, you are now working also with lignin sources in nature, and you've created quite, as an organization, you've created quite a reputation for having a resource that will help people become more healthy and boost their immune system in quite a lot of different ways. So I saw some of the information on the research that you guys have done, that it actually impacts on diabetes, on weight loss, and a number of other things. So I am looking forward to this talk, because in the midst of COVID, we want to ensure that we are taking care of ourselves. And so one of the ways that we do this is by boosting the immune system. So welcome, David, and you can take over from here.
Well, thank you for that nice introduction. I wish I could do the same. I just know that it sounds like you've got an incredible career, and you are set to help a lot of people through this crisis. You know, mental health is something.
So for those of you who might be just joining us brand new, or for those of you who might view this later because someone shares this with you, I'm Dr. Joan Samuels Dennis. I'm actually a nurse psychotherapist and author. I wrote the book 490, Forgive and Live Fearlessly. And I edited another book recently that's called Becoming, The Journey to Love. And that's 12 women who tell their stories about their life struggles and how they overcame it. I also speak. I do transformational speaking events. So looking at how do we actually heal from those things that we have struggled with, and how do we move past them, and not only move past them, but then actually embrace our journey and our purpose in life. So that's the work that I do. And so welcome to all of you. As we move through this talk tonight, please feel free to, I'll be watching the side panel for any questions that you may have. So feel free to just go ahead and type those questions as the presentation is moving along. I'll keep an eye on that, and then I'll offer that information to David as we're moving. And I'm noticing that a question is percolating. All right, you can take it from here, David.
Okay, well, thank you, Doctor. Well, thank you, everyone, for allowing me to join you tonight. I represent Opulence Global, and Opulence Global is an MLM direct selling organization. But, you know, I'm here to talk to you about some of our exciting products, and one of them is called Fountain of Life. It's just a little background information. Way before I joined Opulence Global, I had, you know, been involved with the extract that is now Fountain of Life. I learned all about this about 10 years ago from the doctor who actually discovered this. And this is from the Norwegian spruce tree, growing in northern Finland. And they discovered that this tree did not ever break down or rot. And it was just by accident they saw that. And they cut out a limb and they put it in their freezer. It was one of the researchers, and forgot about it. And the wives threatened to throw it in the garbage because it was there such a long time. And when they studied it, and they couldn't figure out why it didn't rot, why didn't it decay? And it was because it was just filled with this thing called lignins. And we're going to talk a little further about this as we move forward. But the product now is called Fountain of Life. And Fountain of Life is a small bottle, but it contains nature's most powerful source of antioxidant lignins. And we introduced this several years ago. And Fountain of Life is one of those products that really has struck a lot of people because it is a high performance natural antioxidant. And, you know, when we started looking at this, and I'm sure you can agree with me, doctor, that a lot of people, we suffer this thing called chronic inflammation from free radical exposure. You know, for those people who don't understand what free radicals are molecules missing an electron And what happens is that if it's missing an electron, it'll steal an electron. And if it steals from a healthy cell, our bodies are very equipped to actually help this. And we produce antioxidants like superoxide dismutase and glutathione come to mind. But after time, uh, we don't do it as efficiently. And, as you get older, our bodies become overwhelmed. And free radicals are created from UV light, pollution, pesticides, smoking, radiation that we're exposed to. And when it becomes overwhelmed, it causes chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. And that leads to, it's a gateway to so many problems like, cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia, premature aging, diabetes. All these things are related to this one aspect of our health. And it is a challenge. And we're offering a product that really does address that. Because lignans are powerful antioxidants and they help neutralize free radicals. Your doctor will tell you to always, have a balanced diet. They'll tell you to eat your greens, all these things. What they're really saying to you is just kindly saying to eat products that are going to reduce the impact of oxidative stress in our body. They always recommend, colorful vegetables. They'll offer up fruits, nuts, all these things that are really powerful in terms of antioxidants. But when you start taking a look at what lignans are, and I don't know, are you familiar with that term, Doctor? Lignans? Oh, you're muted.
This was actually a new one for me, David.
Yes.
So yeah, very new term to me. And then as I was looking at, the benefits of it, very new to that as well.
Okay, well, when I met the researcher who discovered this, he's from Finland, and I thought he was talking about lignans and lignans. I thought this is a Finnish term 10 years ago, and I was writing it down. I thought, oh, I got to look up what this means in English, and then I discovered it is an English term, that it is something that's found in the cell walls of plants, and these are powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. And the fact of the matter is that they realize that lignans from wood extracts are very powerful, and trees are an actual source of food. And 10 years ago, I tell you, there wasn't a government out there that would believe that. They said, no, we can't eat a tree. Let's forget about cinnamon. Let's forget about certain things that we do eat. But they said there's no way that we could get any health benefits from a tree. And over time, they've realized, no, that's changed. And, they discovered lignans can help balance hormones, block receptor sites, and really attenuate things like the 5-alpha reductase that we develop as we get older. And that leads to hair loss and for men, benign prostate growth. So all these factors come into play. And so,
David, as we are in the midst of COVID, and we are recognizing or seeing the way through the media, we see the ways in which this virus attacks our own cells. So it seems to almost peel away at the outer layer of our cells and then finds its way in, and that's the way that it creates problems. Is there any of this that would influence or boost our ability to resist something like that?
There's some hope on that. And the reason I say that, to be quite honest with you, they're studying it right now very seriously in some labs. And the reason being that they did an in silico study, a big computer generated study, and they discovered that the lignans in fountain of life actually attenuate and block receptor sites, especially the estrogen receptor site alpha and estrogen receptor site beta. And these are docking sites for a lot of viruses in the body. They found out it actually blocked it very effectively. And the theory was that if it could block the receptor site, it prevents viral replication and causes us to be very sick. Now, the COVID-19 docks on what they call the ACE2 receptor site, and it's slightly different. But there has been some theories about whether lignans can, in fact, block that. And so they've taken that model, that in silico model, and actually they're doing some testing over in Europe right now to find out whether, in fact, it can block it. I can't tell you. In theory, they say, yes. But theory is one thing. They want to put it in practice, and we should find out soon whether, in fact, that is a possibility. But sort of exciting that maybe something as simple as this is not going to cure COVID-19. It's not, a vaccine, but if it could stop it from replicating in our body or even entering our body, then perhaps it's a nice defense. We'll have some more information in the next little while. So don't hold your breath, but let's hope that this happen, right? But it is promising. Like the computer generated studies are really exciting. It's just a matter of us to really determine exactly how this works.
Yes.
Okay, so it's sort of like, yeah, it's an interesting comment you made and question, because certainly it's something to look at.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at things, and what we've learned about this is that the ability to really address chronic inflammation and understand that our poor health is not something that is created in a day, month, or year. It's something that we've made a firm commitment to eat all that junk food for many years and cause all these problems. Or we've been exposed to so many things that have led to so many health problems now. So, but we're looking for a way of changing our lifestyle, changing our way of what we're taking in, and finding functional foods that actually work. The question is, for the majority of people, is why do we get sick? And it comes back down to what we were talking about before, is how free radicals really steal an electron from a healthy cell, and it causes what they call oxidative stress. And, oxidation is quite something that we see all the time when we bite into an apple and we leave it there and it starts to turn brown. That's oxidation. And it's similar to what happens in our body with cells. Oxidative stress is a breakdown of our cells, eventually causing inflammation and damage. And that is a reason why we do get sick. Again, where do free radicals come from? Well, there's a lot of sources. In fact, we create it. Like right now, I think a lot of us are creating our own free radicals. We're not going outside, but because of COVID-19, because we're stuck inside, all these things is really raising our stress levels. But there's other things that we can do, smoking, radiation, UV rays, all the toxins, lack of sleep, all these things promote free radicals. And so traditionally, how do we neutralize them? Well, we're always told to take our vitamins or eat a balanced diet or whatever. But, if we take a look at the left side of the screen, vitamins, they're synthetic, they're slow to react in our body, they're unstable to heat. The other thing to really realize is that they are isolated, meaning that because they're synthetic, they're not a natural vitamin. So they don't have any cofactors or minerals along with it. And because of that, they tend to steal. There's another thing of stealing from our bodies that make us that much weaker. And they are very hard to digest because they put fillers and sugars and then they coat them, because vitamins on their own, they really taste terrible. But on the other side, when we go to something natural, they're perishable, they are low in lignans. And, lignans aren't something that we find abundant. In fact, a lot of doctors don't even talk about it because it's really not found in our food sources very easily. So it's sort of one of those things that's been lost. But perhaps today we could tell you, well, how we found it again. The one thing that it was predominant and lignans are predominant is wheat. At one time, because 70% of the world eats wheat, it was something that we grew accustomed to. We used to eat, have a high lignan diet because of the wheat that we used to ingest, like emers, spelt, einkorn. We're just common varieties. But now we went over to a variety called dwarf wheat, and that feeds a lot of people. but it doesn't have the nutrient value, and that's why they have to augment it. When they create white flour, they have to augment it with calcium and vitamins and everything to make it. They want to make it somewhat nutritive when we're eating. So, life has changed. And it comes back down to the Norwegian spruce that I talked about at the beginning, is that they found this incredible tree growing and Norwegian spruces grow all over the world, but it's in northern Finland that this tree grows, that we're taking getting the extract from. They found it's virtually disease-free. It thrives in a very, very harsh environment. It's almost pestilence-free. It's almost basically disease-free, and lives for thousands of years. And it's because they've developed this defense mechanism, and it's got powerful, powerful antioxidants. And the Finnish folklore said that if you ever have a wound, just place a sap on it and it will heal it. And they found out it's all based upon lignans.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, so in nature, you've got trees that actually have developed their own defense mechanism with the lignans. And the lignans are really like the seeds within it or the seeds around the tree? Like
actually, it's not the seeds. It's in the stems, stem heartwood and stem knotwood.
Oh, I see.
And I should have gone a little further, but they found out like the stem knotwood grows into the trunk. So if you have a stem, there's a part of it that grows right into the tree,
Yes.
and it's brown. And that's a part of the tree that the pulp and paper industry don't use because it affects the color of the paper, believe it or not. And so they put it aside, and we take it. So we're not destroying any trees. Actually, we're making a byproduct and repurposing it by taking that area, which obviously filled with sap, but also extracting the lignans in there. And that's where it's located, of all places in the tree. If you take a Norwegian spruce that's growing in Ontario, it will not have the same nutrition as the ones growing in northern Finland. We've tried different things to look at different trees around the world, and they found out, even in Finland, the trees in northern Finland are much different than the trees in southern Finland, which surprised me. But it really goes to show you how a plant has learned to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
They have, and just so you people know, because we get a lot of people who are saying, "What is this?" Oh,
sorry,
did I
picked the wrong mute.
Oh, okay. How sustainable is this? Well, 70% of the forests in Finland are owned by families. And so they have a sustainability program already in place that's been there for decades. So you never have to worry about depleting the forest supplies in Finland. They're a very advanced society that way. And I was really pleased to hear that. As far as what is in there, there's several types of lignans, and please don't try and memorize these names because they're horrible to even say. One is called hydroxymatyrresinol, it's just the amount of material in there. There's 7-hydroxymatyrresinol. There's all sorts of names, resinol, all these things that are part of the lignans. And I think that whoever named it just wanted to give us tongue twisters. It took me forever to learn the names. But the important thing is this slide. And the question is, why eat a lignin-rich food diet? And over a 30-year period, a professor named Dr. Aldercrews started studying societies that ate lignin-rich food. And they found out these societies had 30% less cancer and 30% less heart disease. And this was done over 30 years, and that's a significant number. And they could show, and there was another study that did that, again looked at it, and they found out that societies with a higher lignin diet had markedly less numbers of people suffering from cancer and cardiovascular disease. And so, when we first were introduced to this Norwegian spruce extract as a company, we realized that, the doctor had used it in after sun care for many reasons, just to mop up free radicals and reduce inflammation. to help the appearance of the skin. They added it to sunscreens. That was the first step. We introduced it in the Fairy Flawless Day Moisturizer and Night Serum. And then they started introducing into hair care products because it really did help work on the inflammation of the scalp, reduce dandruff flake production on the scalp as well, and improved hair health. And that's where it really sort of started. But when we started talking about its potential in the company, and another scientist and myself, who's a true scientist as opposed to me, he was telling our directors just how powerful this really was in his experience, and that there's no other lignin source out there. And you compared it to other things like flax seeds, rye, sesame seeds, green tea. He said there was nothing that even compares to this. And so we just talked about this, but why did we create this? Well, number one, Fountain of Life is the highest quality source of antioxidant lignins. It's compared to fruits and vegetables and nuts and everything out there, there's nothing close in terms of the quality or quantity. It is the most powerful antioxidant source from nature. It's got the most essential lignins for good health. And I'm not going to break them all down because I'll just tell you that it's in there. The thing is, it's very stable. It's stable to heat, it's stable to UV light, so it doesn't break down easy. And it's a real easy regimen to use. So we're talking about 10 drops a day on average, and you're going to have your antioxidant source that will help you throughout your day. And it's very safe. I was looking at the studies. They couldn't even find any level of toxicity with this product. So I think it's remarkable that they could do that. But when we started comparing it to what we can eat, and this is just talking about lignins, okay? We're not talking about other vitamins, but lignins. And just to clarify, all these, some people think this is all the things that are in the 5 drops. It's not, we don't have 255 cups of lettuce and 5 drops of product. What we're comparing the lignin values. So in 5 drops of Fountain of Life, if you wanted to get the same number of lignins, you'd have to eat 255 cups of lettuce, 20 cups of kiwis, or 30 or 35 cups of oranges, or 15 cups of cauliflower, and it goes on, or 75 cups of onions. And you'd be a real joy to speak to if you did that. But
yeah. Can you imagine eating 75 cups of onions? Yeah.
I've got enough.
So in 5 drops, basically, you get this intense boost in all these nutrients.
Right. So it's got, in terms of your ability to get the lignins into your diet, you do have other sources, natural sources like tomatoes, all these other things. They do have lignins. It's just that you have to eat so much of it to get the right amount into your body.
Right.
Okay. And so, when we started looking at what is the real value of an antioxidant-rich diet, and you start looking at the stats. It's remarkable that when they said, you can reduce the risks of heart disease, you can reduce the risks of cancer. Of course, I'd love to say it prevents it completely, but again, we're talking about reducing the risk from free radical damage and all that, and we hope that one day it could be more definitive.
Well, and we're definitely talking about the top 2 killers in our country and pretty well worldwide, right? We're talking about cancer, number 2, heart disease, number 1. And so, if you have a diet or a supplement that you can add to your diet that will tackle each of those, I think these are the sorts of things that we need to focus on. It's so easy to just get focused on COVID, but we also have to think, especially, I'm talking now specifically to the African descendants. I'm talking to folks from the Caribbean who have high levels of diabetes, who have complications, so many complications related to heart disease. And then also the cancer levels that are really high amongst us as well. So
yes,
yeah, powerful stuff.
It's very powerful. I'm going to be honest, anecdotally, that I've got many friends in the Caribbean. I've
Yeah.
been blessed by them. They're in my life, and they're the most wonderful people in the world. And I get to speak to them. I'm very honored by that, and I do know that a lignin-rich diet has helped so many of them down there, and I'm so pleased to be able to say that it has made a difference. And I know the challenges they have with cardiovascular disease related to diabetes type 2 because of the types of diets they've been exposed to.
Yeah.
But I'm also pleased to say that they're very smart and they're very aware, and they take in the hold of products like Fountain of Life, and they're making changes, and it's exciting to see. Uh,
Mhm.
and I'm pleased that I was part of that journey with them, and I keep them near and dear to my heart. That's for sure, and I
Mhm.
like keeping in touch with them. Um, and of course, I like visiting them too.
Of course.
they, they live differently than we do.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
know how to live. I'll tell you, if anyone's never been to the Caribbean, go to the Caribbean. They know how to live. Like, I mean, Canadians don't know how to live. We know how to work. We know how to live. That's for sure. Anyways, so some of the things that, sorry, I digress, but one of the things, and we'll talk about this further a little, but controlling diabetes complications, defending against dementia. And this is really, really interesting because they discovered that the lignans in Fountain of Life, when you take it sublingually, it actually can cross the blood-brain barrier. And the researchers did not know that till recently. And they think that's why certain things are impacted positively taking this, because it actually makes a difference into our brain chemistry that way. So,
So,
yeah.
David, for those people who are non-medical, so explain what sublingual means.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sublingual, like if you place it under your tongue, you know, doctors might say, take this and put it sublingually, like, I think they put what is it, those pills for when you're having a heart attack, and glycerin pills underneath your tongue. It gets right into your bloodstream right away.
Yes.
And so it's called sublingual when it's under the tongue. My apologies. And then we have this thing called the blood-brain barrier, which protects our soft brains from a lot of things. And we got a very sensitive organ in a very hard shell. And because it protects it, sometimes it blocks out good things as well as bad things. And they found out that the lignans, the 7-HMR, actually crosses that blood-brain barrier. And so now they're able to do more study about that. But that discovery was just major last year. So, and it sort of starts explaining to researchers why people feel, they say, I feel less anxious taking this. I feel this and that, it could be part of it. We like to say it's all us, but again, we don't know because we got to still study it. But it now gives us a basis of understanding as to how it may work, and allows our researchers to go deeper. So it was an interesting development. The other thing is that, as we grow older, uh, we have testosterone in our body. Men have more than women. Women have a little. We all develop this thing called an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. And when 5-alpha reductase is formed, it leads to the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, which is very powerful. It shrinks our hair follicles, and our hair actually starts falling out. That's why we start getting hair loss or thinning of hair. And just a little bit in women causes major hair loss as well. And they found out that lignans can attenuate the formation of 5-alpha reductase, this enzyme. And so people's hair health actually increases and improves with them taking Fountain of Life or having a lignin in their diet. So it was one of those things that was a really serious, great byproduct. Now, mind you, if your hair follicles are not alive, uh, and haven't been alive for a long time, it's not going to stimulate new hair follicle growth. It'll just stimulate those hair follicles that are still alive. Men have prostate.
That's
Oops.
pretty amazing. Now we've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
This one was a little while back and I missed it. Sorry about that, Donna. The question was, can we find lignin in the white pine?
Uh, Maybe, probably, I would say, but I don't know. Uh, what I think is a maritime French pine
Yeah.
that they isolated. They brought out this thing called pycnogenol. I think some people on this call might have heard of that, and that's what they're asking. Pycnogenol is in the bark of the tree, actually, and
Okay.
so I'm sure that they could find lignans in it. I don't know how plentiful it would be,
Yeah.
but pycnogenol is another antioxidant they've identified. It's interesting. They did a lot of marketing on pycnogenol.
Yeah.
When COVID-19 came out, one doctor in the Bahamas said, "We got a lot of pycnogenol here. It'll prevent COVID-19," and he soon disappeared off all the number
Right.
number one, it wasn't the maritime French pine he was pointing at,
Right.
and so the industry's going, "Whoa, hold it! He doesn't even know what pycnogenol is." Uh,
Right. And so is it similar to flax oil as well? Because, you know, we're told to take a lot of, well, not a lot of, I think we're actually told to moderate the amount of flax that we do consume. But
yeah,
flax is one of those oils that is pretty specialized. Is it
well,
like flax oil?
it's close. Well, it's flax seed.
Yeah.
Flax seed has uh, a lignin called secoisolariciresinol diglucoside. Long name, don't worry about it. SDG for short. But it converts to enterolactone in the body, just like ours. Well, just like Fountain of Life. I'm sorry, not ours, but it's just like Fountain of Life. They both convert to what we call enterolactone in the body, and that's where it's similar. The route, the way they get there, is different. Ours is more efficient. Sorry, FOL, Fountain of Life, is more efficient. It gets there much quicker. It doesn't have to go through the same process. It is much more powerful. But in a way, it is similar, yet it is different in that way because it does convert to enterolactone. It's just that it's much more efficient doing so.
Okay.
Okay. And flax oil, just so you know, is different than flax seed.
Right.
Flaxseed, flaxseed, and one thing I gotta say, flaxseed does have fiber in it that we don't have. So, that's why I always advocate a balanced diet. There's a lot
Yeah.
of good things about flaxseed, but it's not as efficient. It doesn't give you the same lignans. Flax oil doesn't have any lignans in it. And that's the one thing to really realize. You might say, I get my lignans from flax oil. Well, you're not getting anything from that, really.
Right.
Maybe, I think the omega-3s are in there, which is good.
So one last question with regards to the slide that we're on and the hair loss. So does it actually undo the damage that has been done? So do people notice that their hair starts to regrow, or is it that it stops your hair from
No,
going
actually,
further?
if you have a viable hair follicle, your
Yeah.
hair will start growing again.
Ah,
So, and I'm like to say, well, there's one old Asian man who looked like he probably, I say old, maybe middle-aged Asian man who probably had been bald since he was 20, tried it out. And he says, my hair's not growing well. Like I could tell that he didn't have one living hair on his head. And I had to sort of explain to him gently, that really, I think he was disappointed, but he understood at the end that he has to have some living hair follicles. But
right.
for the majority of men who still have living hair follicles, yeah, it works very well. I'm surprised the number of men that and women who have written back and said, you know what, my hair's regrowing again.
Mhm.
So it does help with the appearance of your hair if you have something there.
Right.
And
Okay.
for prostates, for us men, as we get older, the 5-alpha reductase does a double whammy on us because it causes benign prostate growth. And so, doctors will prescribe things like finasteride. These are 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, and to help us really reduce the size of our prostate, number one. Number two, to help us void. And lignans will do basically the same thing. And so lignans in our diet is very good for our prostate health.
Mm.
So it lowers our exposure to lower urinary tract infections and issues, discomfort, and voiding difficulties.
Wow.
And I worked in urology for years, and I used to always say, I know a man who's got benign prostate disease because he can't void. And I say, when I'm on the plane, after the seatbelt light goes on, there's always like 4 or 5 men that run to the, to the to the head. And I said, it's because they can't void properly. It's
Right.
unfortunate, but I worked on that for years and in laser technology. And it's one of those things that I hope I gifted men. I haven't had to use it yet, which is, I pray every day I don't have to use it, but you know, it's Asian men aren't exposed to this as much apparently, thank goodness. But
Right.
it's one of those things that we have to men go through. Of course, for women's health, what do lignans do? It lowers the risk of developing breast cancer. These are weak phytoestrogens, and phytoestrogens uh, are not the same power as mammalian estrogens. So and it's important to understand there's a big difference. But the thing is that physiologically, they have the same sort of form, and they're able to dock into certain receptor sites in the breast. And in fact, a lot of hormonal sites in both bodies, like that's why it works on prostates, everything, but it reduces the opportunity for the bad estrogens to dock there and cause uncontrolled growth. And that's why lignans are important. That's why they say that lignans will reduce the opportunity of developing certain things. Apart from just chronic inflammation, it also docks into certain sites in our body and reduces the chances of hormonal cancer growth.
Wow.
So it's a very promising thing to say, to think that if we added this to our diet, and societies that have this in their diet have shown less incidences of things like cancer, which is pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fountain of life is just, it's fast acting. It's, you know, gain high source of lignans, and it's a high quality source of antioxidants. It's a very easy thing to take. You know, it tastes like wood. I'm going to be honest with you. The first time you taste, have you tasted it, doctor?
No.
Okay, it's got a bit of a woody taste to it. You know, when people say, what does it taste like? I said, well, if you go to your Home Depot, and not that I'm recommending it, look a piece of lumber. That's exactly what it tastes like.
Right.
But at first, that's the first thing. It's got some bitter notes to it and everything, which
Yeah.
is not a bad thing. But after you start taking it, I'm amazed the number of people say that it tastes sweet.
Right.
It's our ability to acclimate to certain things. However, you know, I do recommend at first, if you're not used to it, take it in water or juice, yogurt, beer. If you want, beer is very bitter and it hides it very well. Or
Right.
just, you know, so, and then again, I have to qualify and say, if you're going to work first thing in the morning, don't drink it in your beer. You know,
Right. That makes sense.
I don't want to have to take responsibility.
Right.
Someone saying he recommended that, you know. But you know, it's not a cure-all. And one thing I'm trying to stress is that this is a functional food. It is a great natural supplement, but it's not a cure-all. Like as we talk about some serious diseases, we're talking about one thing in particular, chronic inflammation that causes so many things. It does protect us from free radicals and free radical damage. And you know, the evidence is growing as to how powerful this can really be. You know, we're talking about the French study over 7 years, and you know, they found out that all these women, 58,000 women, showed reduced risks of breast cancer because of a high dietary intake of lignans.
Mm.
And then we start taking a look at these type of studies. You think that you know, this is really important in terms of having this in our diet. This doesn't mean that you're not supposed to eat anything else, you know, it's just lignans. You got to have a balanced diet. You have to have, you still need fiber, and you still need all these other things that make us complete, vitamins, vitamin D. That's so important for our well-being. But again, lignans are something that no one ever thinks about. And I think that we've managed to at least bring up that awareness of this type of nutrient. And again, we're looking at more studies, you know, about lignans and pterolactone, and the importance of having that in our system. Lowering reactive oxygen species, meaning just simply reducing oxidative stress and diabetes. I think I got something on diabetes up here, and I'd like to just tell you a little bit more about that. But again, as well as cardiovascular disease, they've shown a lower amount of cardiovascular disease due to having a better lignin diet. And so, sleep and our mental health, as referred to that, the 7-hydroxymethyresinol, long name, but 7-HMR can pass through the blood-brain barrier. And this is the lignin that's predominant fountain of life.
Mm.
And they think that this explains its ability. People say, I'm less anxious, I get better sleep, all these nice things. It helps reduce the free radical activity that causes stress in our body, in our brain especially.
Hmm.
So this is not the conclusion. I know I got other slides in here, but the thing is that we're getting older. I'm getting older, you know. I could tell every day I wake up, like one doctor said, it was really interesting because you don't know when you peaked in your looks until you start getting ugly. You look back and I'm thinking the guy's and this guy's always on YouTube talking about COVID-19. He's talking about the peak. He goes, you just don't know. He said, just like when and I'm thinking, yeah, he's so right about looks, 5 years ago, you might have peaked, but you don't know until 5 years later, right?
When all of a sudden you're ugly.
Oh, that's so ugly. You're going, oh, that was my peak. But
We're at 7:45, and so how many more slides do you have to go there, David?
Well, I'll try to go fast on this because there's some really good things here, because we're going to talk about what is discovered in research. And, essentially all the things that we talked about before, chronic inflammation, people have reported all these wonderful things. And, the thing is that other reports, people over diabetes type 2 has shown marked improvement. We've got all these anecdotes from so many people from around the world, especially the Caribbean, where they're really, really being hit by diabetes type 2. One doctor said that almost every other patient's got diabetes in her clinic, and she's just, astounded by how impacted this has been.
Right.
And so, she's wondering what can we do, and we brought in Fountain of Life. They started looking at that. Then people were talking about, I've started losing weight. Is that possible? And I kept saying, well, I don't know. I don't think so. It's not a weight loss product.
Right.
We didn't really have an explanation until now. And what happened is, yeah, you can lose weight taking Fountain of Life. And why is that? Because they discovered that the 7-HMR lowered insulin resistance, cholesterol, and fat in obese animal studies. And they found that the 7-HMR really impacted it. They found that fat was more efficient in metabolizing the liver, less fatty deposits, sugar was utilized, insulin resistance was lower, the amount of insulin produced by our pancreas was actually lower, and cholesterol levels were lower. And as a result, people lost weight.
Wow.
And so I just want to stress again, it's not a drug and it's not a miracle. It's just that it's a high lignin diet. And so it just gives us new promises to this information on how it's impacting our body in a very positive way, reducing chronic inflammation and allowing us to really live, having a higher quality of life all around. Mm-hmm. And we do have a fact sheet here on the product. I don't think you can all see that, but that is something that you and I discussed briefly, and you could
if you send that to me, then I can pass it on to the folks who attended today, and the folks who attended yesterday as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I hope that sort of gives you. I apologize. I'm not trying to rush, but I wanted to give you an overview of the power of this product. There's so many things happening in the world right now. Diabetes and cardiovascular disease and cancer does not stop because of COVID-19. Yeah. It weakens our body, but at the same time, do we have something that will help? And I'm not here to say that, well, we got the miracle product of the century, but I think that we have a product. And there's a doctor from Yale, a researcher, an immunologist said, Iwasaki just said that in an interview, he says, they asked, do we need supplements in our diet to fight, to boost our immune system? And he said, no. We do not need supplements unless it is not up to the levels that we do require. If you don't have enough in our food sources, the answer is yes, we do need them. And we don't get enough lignans in our diet. The average American, sorry, we don't have the Canadian numbers, but I'm sure it's the same, takes in 1 milligram of lignans a day. The average they say that we should try and hit is 50 to 100 times that.
Wow.
So we're much lower. And that's why boosting our system with a lignan diet is so, so important.
Wonderful. Okay, I think we can stop sharing the screen now, David, and then
Okay.
our images will go.
Is that better?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
So for those of you that are still online, if you have any questions, please post them. That was a very informative, so I'm gonna show Courtney Quarry is on the, I believe he's on the line as well. So if he wants to join in now, he can. So yeah, that was very informative. And, we're always, one of the things I was cognizant of as I was calling for that immune booster presentation was, we didn't just want to tell people to eat right and then have no way of basically saying what a resolution to that might be. So I'm so glad that you were able to present this.